Biden was up against the Republicans and liars, bad people like the senator from one of the poorest states in America, Democrat Joe Manchin of West Virginia. And he was saying throughout this that all this spending on the social safety net was creating the inflation. Apparently, Joe Manchin knows better than Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, you would think. No, Joe Manchin is a liar, and I'm glad to see him go. He was blaming inflation on the social safety net with no proof and no evidence. Now, why would he say something like this? Why wouldn't Joe Manchin, whose constituents from West Virginia are worse off today than when he first became their senator, why would he fight the social safety net? Makes no sense. Whatever happened to bringing home the bacon for your constituents, right? I just got finished reading This Will Not Pass by Jonathan Martin and Alexander Burns. It just came out. It's a great book. It's called This Will Not Pass. It's a blow-by-blow of Biden's first 2 years in office. I recommend reading it because there's been so much chaos during the Trump administration, and it's bled over to the Biden administration. It's hard to keep track of everything. It's hard to keep track of the chaos that Donald Trump created as president, and it's also hard to keep track of all of Joe Biden's accomplishments. This is a proactive president. He doesn't sound proactive. He doesn't behave proactive. But when you look at the resume from the past 3 years, we are talking Lyndon Johnson. We are. But it's hard to keep track of what Joe Biden has accomplished. And because it's hard to keep track of, I believe that's why Joe Biden's approval ratings are now the lowest since he took office. But in his first 2 years, Biden built, as I said, the largest social safety net in American history. He just did, in terms of spending, in terms of handing money over to the American people so they didn't fall through the cracks. Unfortunately, it was temporary. The Republicans fought him every step of the way, and so did Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is a bad guy, and he kept fighting the child tax credit, and it lapsed, which doubled childhood poverty overnight. The first year in office, Joe Biden increased the child tax credit, and child poverty in America, I think it was the lowest since the war on poverty first started. He just eliminated half of child poverty. Again, I don't want to get into the weeds and talk about how it's not enough. Obviously, it's not enough. But so he eliminated child poverty, not completely. Now, why would Joe Manchin, senator from West Virginia, where I don't know if the kids still have the bloated bellies that Bobby Kennedy saw when he visited West Virginia, but you have severe poverty in West Virginia. Why would Joe Manchin be against the child tax credit? Well, according to This Will Not Pass, this book that I just read, Joe Manchin, the Democratic senator from West Virginia, fought Biden on all the social safety net payments. Right? He didn't want the child tax credit. And while all this was going on, you're going, why? Why? Well, are you seated? Sit down. According to This Will Not Pass, Joe Manchin fought the social safety net, the child tax credit. He said, I know my constituents. You give them money and they spend it on drugs, unquote. Throughout the book, Joe Manchin is quoted several times as saying, get rid of the child tax credit. I know the people of West Virginia, you give them money and they spend it on drugs. And when I read that, I went, oh, okay. Now at least I understand what's going on in this evil mind of his. He sleeps at night by thinking, you can't trust poor people with money. They'll spend it on drugs. Not the drugs his daughter, the drug executive, sells. And we've gone over Joe Manchin's daughter. She should be tried for price gouging on the EpiPen. I did a whole show on Joe Manchin's daughter. Just go to my website, Google Joe Manchin's daughter. It's unbelievable what this family they've cashed in on Joe Manchin's name, the hypocrisy and the greed and the price gouging. Unbelievable. But at least I got an insight into how Joe Manchin sleeps at night. He has so much contempt, like Donald Trump does, for his voters. It's better to keep them poor because any money you give them will just be spent on drugs. Isn't that incredible? That's his argument for making sure working moms have to choose between food and rent. They're just going to spend it on drugs. They're not going to spend it on school supplies, shoes, food, hospital copays. No, they're all going to spend it on drugs. And that's, of course, the cause of the opiate addiction in West Virginia, the social safety net. If you ask him, how do we combat drug addiction? Don't give any money to poor people. They have no money, they can't buy drugs. But you better hire more cops because they'll probably end up breaking into my home to pay for their drugs. I was very grateful when I read this because I said, okay, he sees poor people as animals. So, okay, now I understand. You give these animals money, they spend it on drugs. It's evil. And somehow this POS thinks he's the one who should launch a third-party bid for president. The No Labels candidate. No Labels. Josh Gottheimer's party. Vote for me, Joe Manchin. I'm the guy who makes you poor. I'm saving your life by keeping you poor.